Hi, and welcome back to Invested. Today, Sarah and I are joined by Canadeo, and we have a chance in this episode where we talk a little bit less about financial markets and more about overall health and wellness, which for us is of critical importance when we do our holistic planning with clients. You know, often in our meetings with clients, it's not unusual that we end up spending less time talking about portfolio construction and asset allocation and efficient frontiers. And we actually end up spending the bulk of our time talking about how is everyone doing health-wise and what's going on with their careers and relationships with family members. So it's enjoyable for us to have a guest on the podcast and talk about other aspects of our clients' lives, and particularly talking about the importance of self-care. Canadeo is the CEO of the Canadeo Health and Wellness Corporation, and as a holistic health coach, she is board certified through the American Association of Drugless Practitioners. She is an integrative nutritionist and wellness ambassador, and an allied health member of the Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. Often featured in the press, Catherine is recognized as a leading expert as an integrative nutritionalist in Prevention Magazine. Catherine has coached and consulted with hundreds of private clients, and as well, she's teaching workshops and presenting as a keynote speaker for corporate meetings and conferences. In her work, she designs and customizes plans covering everything from weight loss to autoimmune deficiencies to hormone imbalance and more. So with that, let's get to our conversation with Catherine Canadeo. Well, welcome back to Invested. And today we have with us Catherine Canadeo. Catherine, thank you so much for joining us and making time in what we know is your very busy schedule.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here this afternoon with the both of you.
So as we talked, we have a lot of topics that we can go through today. And hopefully we can get to other episodes and maybe have you come back and join us some more. But to keep it sort of digestible, we thought we'd back out and just take it from a 40,000 foot level and talk about some of the stages that we go through when we talk with our clients. And when we look at it from a financial standpoint, and not that we speak only to the financial standpoint, but we go through sort of three primary phases that the client goes through. There's the wealth accumulation phase where, you know, we're running around, we're busy in our careers, we're trying to figure out, okay, of the time I have, and and we talked about this earlier. I want to be the best husband I can be. I want to be the best spouse I can be. I want to be the best employer/employee. Where do we find time for that? How do we find time for that? And then of the financial part, when we have these extra dollars left over, does it go towards fixing the house? Does it go towards purchasing a house? Does it go towards my retirement nest egg or maybe my kids' education? So those are kind of some of the things that we're, from a financial standpoint, thinking about in the accumulation phase. And then as we get into the retirement or pre-retirement phase, and we're sort of taking assessment of where are we, have I done enough? Are my kids graduated from college, or maybe they're just getting out of college? And now I'm looking towards this long runway I have ahead of me that's very, very different. And so what are some of the key things that we should think about? And then in the retirement phase and transitioning into that retirement phase, which is a very different phase of life, I no longer have my paycheck. I need to worry about someone helping me with that paycheck recreation and where do my funds come from, because I'm used to getting that automatic deposit. And hey, my life is different now. Probably not taking care of my parents anymore, probably not taking care of my kids anymore. It's just me or us, and this life is very different. So just thinking about those three things and taking a more holistic view, and how does health and wellness and I know we want to talk about self-care a lot, but I think you use the term building health equity. And maybe you can kind of walk us through how that applies to maybe those different stages and take it from there.
Thank you. And that was a really great introduction, Paul. And it really hits the major talking points of our life story, right? So we all have our story. And you're basically talking it in the sense of each page being a chapter in our novel. And we are one person, right? Our brain is not here, our gut's not here, and our spirit's not there. We're all one being. And there's really no separation when it comes to our financial well-being and our own well-being. It's one and the same because our financial foundation creates the level of, constantly being in transition. We're not how we were when we were in our 20s, and our needs and wants are not as they were when we're in our 20s and 30s. And especially when we start having our children and looking at the homes that we're building and understanding how we are operating on an intracellular level and how that affects us and how stress, really does make a big component as far as financial stability. And when we look at what our goals are, how we're looking to grow and how we're building that financial equity and financial well-being, it's always lock in step. It's never one or the other because we don't go a day without looking at our bank accounts, our portfolios, and what does it take for us to put those kids through college? And, can we take that vacation this summer? And, what kind of a house can I afford? What does my paycheck look like coming home? How many taxes are being taken? All of these things affect every single decision that we're making. And also on top of that, reflects upon us how well we're doing. So the first home is our home that we're living in, meaning our body. So the way we're taking care of our body, how we're showing up for ourselves and being productive and really understanding those leadership qualities that we have as a spouse, as a CEO running our companies, those are essential in order for us to build those blocks, those foundational pivoting points in our career that go hand in hand with our financial freedom, stability, and equity. And again, the more you're investing in yourself, maintaining a good exercise regimen, eating well, being connected to what your needs and wants are physically, emotionally, spiritually, you can then lend that into the financial aspect of building the financial equity in your workplace. What does that look like? Where are your interests? Are you making more deposits than withdrawals in your own health account? How are you doing that? You are your biggest investment. You are your biggest asset. Let's not turn it into a liability. And so building that equity in yourself and in your financial equity as well is really a symbiotic relationship. And I find that with my clients as well, that each stage that we're in, our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, it requires a different perspective. And the key aspect in any situation is being completely adaptable. When we are adaptable and we are in a state of flow, that level of financial fluency then lends itself to us being creative. It gives us the ability to grow our net worth. It gives us the ability to actually lend into the more, different types of areas that we want to see in the future. So we have our current situation, our present situation, and then we have what our future goal setting is also like. So when we're looking at our, accounts, we're saying to ourselves, this is what I want for now, but what about, 5 years from now? Where's the goalpost here? What are we looking to create here? And that really does play a pivotal role in our mindset. And also then it doesn't, create stress. It actually reduces stress when you have a plan. And that's why it's really essential having a really holistic attitude with your financial advisors, as you both do, because you're really laying the groundwork for your why. Show me your why. Give me your storyline. Where is this going for you? What means, do you have as far as your priorities are concerned? How do we build that wealth equity, your health equity? How are they symbiotic and reflective of each other? So it's kind of like a self-sustainable, home that you're building. That it keeps generating your wealth, it keeps generating your health, and it's not one or the other. It's always lock in step.
Yeah, and it's funny because sometimes I'll leave a note for myself to do something. Like I'll open a cabinet, or like I just opened my furnace and I left a note for myself, change the filter on this date. I was like, look at previous me. I'm so proud of you for reminding current me that that needed to be done on this date. So if you were going to talk to, hey, here's a chance to go back and talk to somebody that is now in their 50s, but they were in their 30s or 40s. What are some of the key things that if somebody came into you that you'd first want to address?
That's a great question. So our future self, we always think, oh, it's never going to happen, right? We have all these milestone birthdays, and
Not
then
to
we look at our
me.
kids and like, oh my God, I can't believe, we got grandkids now. I'm like, how did I get here? That's like, I look at my kids right now, like, shoot, married 2 years, what are you kidding me? It's like yesterday. But all of a sudden now, you're in your 20s and 30s, but what does my future self look like? How can I invest in that person? What does he or she want? And it's really important because, if you want that nice house, in the suburbs, or you want to buy yourself a boat, or you want to have a retirement in France, Italy, Greece, wherever you want to be, what does that look like? And how do I plan for that now? How do I plan for my kids? Your future self is part of the growth process, and we're constantly in a state of transition and transformation. So your future self actually helps you to plan accordingly, fiscally, health and wealth wise as well. It helps you to understand what your needs are in your 20s and 30s may be completely different when you're in your 50s. In your 50s, you have different stressors. You may be dealing with older parents, or the sandwich generation, or now your kids are, graduating from college and they're starting their homes. So maybe they're looking to you to actually be the signer on their mortgages. Do you have enough to help your kids to do that? Are your kids going to have student loan debt? Do they even have that this day and age with the housing markets and everything else? They're really looking towards the parents. We think, okay, once they're out of college, that's it. Go, on your merry way. And meanwhile, it's like, Mom, can you go sign this? Mom, can you the car? Well, everything. So it's a continuation, and that life story, that beautiful, ability to have that financial fluency, that literacy, that freedom, then creates that momentum for your adult child now also, and also then helps them to create a sense of their own identity when it comes to their financial wellness. They learn from you. You're the example. Teach them how to prepare for their life expectancy, how it's going to be raising their children, what it's like for them to buy the house, what's going to look like for them saving for their children's college funds. All of these things are for your future self at any age. So I'm in my early 60s. So now what am I looking at? I'm looking at retirement. I'm looking to still help my kids with their houses, with it. So it's all still part of the same conversation, but it just takes different, levels of urgency, different levels of, what's the priority right now? What am I really focusing on right now? And what needs my attention? And how do I prepare? It's just like a recipe, right? We're always preparing, cooking in the kitchen. Same thing with your financial well-being. Right. How am I going to prepare for that beautiful, meal for the family? Where is that gorgeous villa in Tuscany that we're all going to go to for my XYZ birthday, right? All of that, it's a constant state of flow and fluidity. It's not one or the other. And it's constantly staying adaptable. And when you're doing that, it creates a sense of being present, but also thanking your future self, because this took preparation. This took a lot of hard work. This took a lot of planning. And to have that ability to have a holistic financial wealth advisor to guide you, because we all need that type of mentorship, right? We all have talents, and each one of us, really showcases well in what we do. And having that level of conversation and understanding the why, being with your financial wellness advisor, that's the best gift that you can give yourself to plan for your future at any age. And understanding that level of independence, financial freedom, stability, it decreases your stress, decreases your cortisol levels, your blood pressure. It keeps you in a state of health, which equals your wealth, because it gives you the ability to really enjoy your life on every level, every age that you're at.
I love speaking with you, Catherine, because I wish we could have had this conversation 15, 20 years ago while my parents were still alive. First generation came to the U.S., really dedicated their full life on, number one, their family, but came here with nothing. So their full focus for 20, 30 years, as my sister and I were growing up, was strictly financial, not only for themselves, but to put us in a better position for us, for our future. Education was really important to them. So helping us with tuition and all that stuff was really where a lot of their life was dedicated, on top of making sure that, we were good kids and all that stuff, which they did a pretty good job of.
Well, I don't know.
I would have to agree with them.
I mean, I don't want to inflate my ego or anything, but I think they did an okay job.
Well.
But
they did a beautiful job.
Thank you. But I think what was missing in that puzzle was the focus on health and self-care. There was no lick of that. And I feel now, as sadly they have passed, and my sister and I are growing up and starting families and shifting into that next stage of life, it's hard for me to get out of that state of having the self-care be a focus for me, because it's what was so ingrained into my mind as a child and growing up and kind of transitioning into being an adult and a working professional. All these things was save, focus on the future, make sure you have, you're protected against all these things. But I'll admit, it's very hard for me to disassociate with work and do any layer of self-care, because my mind is so focused on the momentum from a financial wellness standpoint. It's a struggle for me.
It is. And that's a great perspective. And I really appreciate you making that space for us to really talk about this topic, because myself as well, Sarah, I'm first generation born here. My parents were from Greece, and they came with nothing as well. And, they built up their businesses here, hardly speaking any English. And it really is a testament to that generation and that fortitude that they had and that work ethic, right? So when we look at that, they really gave us some incredible, beautiful blessings along the way, right? That they taught us how to show up for ourselves and have these wonderful, jobs and opportunities here in America. But that work ethic is also transgenerationally passed down from their parents, right? My great-great-grandfather had a 200-acre olive grove, gardens. So they really were in that work ethic of work every day from sunrise to sundown. And here in the United States, it's a really fine line between work-life balance. I just did a podcast earlier about this on Discover Long Island, and there really isn't a work-life balance. It's either you're working or you're socializing. There are two buttons here. Mm-hmm. And what really stresses everyone out, and especially with my C-suite management, corporate wellness programs that I do, when you are working, you're in work mode. Your mindset is shifted to that, frequency, and you are at that level of running your company. So you are present in CEO, C-suite management mode. You're there to really be present all day long, managing your, staff, your coworkers, your employees. And throughout the day, when you're there in that environment, it's a different kind of self-care that you can do for yourself. It's getting up every hour or so, right? Put a little timer on your phone, walk around the office for a minute. Sitting is the new smoking, okay? So sitting for too long, it just compresses our diaphragm. It doesn't allow us to have that, we as human beings need to be moving constantly, but not, because that's what our ancestors did too. So, and then also making sure that you're staying hydrated throughout the day in your workspace. Yeah. So that you can still have a level of self-care when you're in a corporate environment. And then that just transitions over to a different type of self-care when you're in your home environment. Then, you're making a meal with your family, taking this one to soccer, whatever it is. But it's a different level of self-care at each time of our day, so that you're not really choosing one over the other. It's, again, a symbiotic relationship, because work is work. But then when you're doing something that you love, it's more of a passion, right? That's your why. Mm-hmm. And that's the gifts that you've been given, going to college and learning your skill sets and becoming the, professional people that we are, and sharing that ability with our clients. So that is very honorable. And that is a wonderful thing that we share, so that we don't have to feel like we're splitting ourselves into this person and this person, because that just creates more stress. Right. And then when you're home, you're really present then for your family when you're home. Leave work here. I always say, if you can, you have to have, we have our folders and our computers and our laptops for every single file that we do. File that away. Now you're in home mode. Now you're able to be present. And again, what that does is it decreases your cortisol levels. It decreases your blood pressure. So you're not always in constant state of conflict. Am I doing enough? Am I being enough? Am I in the right place enough? Why didn't I drink my water? Why didn't I take my walk? It's more of like a constant level of communication with self and checking into you throughout the day when you're at work. Are my needs being met? How am I servicing myself? I'm servicing all of my clients, but have I serviced myself? Did I have lunch today? Did I check in with my kids for 2 minutes? Touching base. And another thing that's really important, Sarah, which our parents didn't really do back then, is grounding and anchoring yourself. Mm-hmm. I see in your office, you have beautiful pictures behind you, and so does Paul. So do I. what's our why? Our family. Why do we show up and be as productive and, do a really, good job at what we're doing? Because our family is our why. We want to create these beautiful lifestyles for ourselves and our families. We love the work that we do because it really is symbiotic with who we are and our talents and our gifts that we share. But surrounding yourself with what you love and what you love to do is basically transcending itself to having those constant shifts all day long so that you can incorporate your self-care, still be a professional corporate person, and also learn how to flip the switch when you go home. Now you're in your car. During COVID, no one had moments of decompression. They just went right from the computer at their, whatever dining room table to their office and then right into the kitchen. There was no level of decompression. Now we do. We can get in the car. We can listen to music, decompress by the time we come home. That's your self-care time also. And so then when you get home, you transition, and then you're in a different workspace. It's work, but it's all passion and love at the same time.
I think that's really important because especially in the accumulation phase for those that are still kind of building their wealth and growing not only personal development, but also raising a family. Oftentimes, our clients and myself included, when I think of self-care, I think, I don't have time for that. But I think it's really critical what you're saying, because it's not as though, me making a point to take a sip of my, 40-ounce water cup or whatever that's here. Honestly, this is
glass of water right here.
It stays full most of the day.
Cheers, everyone.
I'm not
Cheers, guys.
But doing little things like that could also equate to the definition of self-care and kind of filling that bucket.
Well, and I think too, Sarah, you are a very disciplined person, and I think this goes to a lot of our clients as well, that being disciplined, yes, but you have to be disciplined, including self-care, right? I mean, we have a lot of small business owners and executives that their work becomes their life, and it's go, 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 go.
Parents with young kids, that are chasing their children.
Yeah, you and Catherine, you can chime in on this, obviously more detail, but you have to make that space for and be disciplined about taking care of yourself. So just so you can show up for that job or that other person or your family, right?
And then another thing to add to your point, Paul, is that we feel guilty.
Absolutely,
that's the guilt. Or we just think of self-care as being selfish and self-centered, and that is the total opposite of what self-care really is. Self-care is self-preservation. And, when we think about our families, we couldn't think of never being around for them, right? We want to see our kids grow. We want to be around for the graduations, when they get married, and be around for the grandchildren. We want to show up as our best versions of ourselves so that we have the energy when we're older even, right, to go on those vacations, to be on the floor playing with the grandkids, right, not, throwing out our backs and not being able to walk. I see them right now when we're going on cruises, with the canes and the walkers, which is great. They're showing up, they're still doing it. But what quality of life are you looking at, right? So, and when you look at your health account and you look at your equity account, in the accumulation, you don't just get sick overnight. You don't just have high cholesterol and diabetes and autoimmune disease and, all of these different factors. It doesn't happen overnight. It's an accumulation. Mm-hmm. Just like we accumulate wealth, we have to accumulate our health, because our health really is our wealth. And if we don't take care of ourselves, when we get to a certain age, we think, okay, now I'll relax. Now I'm going to really enjoy my, benefits. But what happens if you're not well enough to enjoy all of those benefits then? And what have you been working so hard for? And, it's more of like a constant reminder that your health and your equity in your health and your wealth have to be a symbiotic relationship. I can't say that enough. It's one, because one supports the other so that you can, when you're a little older, enjoy your life and not have all the aches and pains and, God forbid, diabetes or cardiovascular or autoimmune issues. And as we're also getting older, unfortunately, here in America, I love America, but the food supply here is not the best, okay? And everything that's happening here, genetically modified foods, Frankenstein foods, and all this other stuff, we're really compromised here. So we have to be careful of what we're also eating to maintain great energy levels to be productive at work. But also taking care of yourself is a priority for you, because it's the best gift that you can give yourself and to your family and to your corporations and to your businesses, because it's a constant state of being productive, energized, positive mindset. It's all one, and it's a constant accumulation of both happening at the same time.
Catherine, do you see men and women approaching this topic of self-care in the same way, in a different way? What's been your experience across your journey focused on this topic?
So this is a great question, Sarah, because as we're getting older now, in the past 20 to 30 years, cardiovascular incidence was the highest for men, right? A stroke, heart attack, because men were basically CEOs and running their companies. But now for the past 25 to 30 years, and I've worked with the American Heart Association as well, we see women. The number one killer of women right now is heart attack. It's not even cancer anymore. Because what's happening here, it's incredibly statistically, scary. But what's happening here is our women are really becoming much more, of a workaholic as well. They're running their companies and they're not taking that self-care. So women have really taken a nice seat now in the self-care department because they realize how much it is impacting their daily, quality of life. So women actually have now embraced more of the self-care. They're hiring people like me, like a wellness advisor, to come into their companies and, really come up with programs because you want to protect your CSET, suite management teams. You want to help your employees. You want to maintain a constant productivity of leadership. And what does that look like? It's a mindful, leader. It's a wellness approach to women are really taking the initiative. And now men are also becoming much more aware because they're becoming more aware of the fact that they need to maybe revisit and reinvent their way of keeping themselves healthy for their families. It doesn't have that stigma anymore, of self-care being like, it's not a spa day. It's not just going out and playing golf all day. That's not the form of, self-care that we're talking about. It's a continuation of how you're waking up in the morning. What are you doing for yourself? How are you showing up at work? How are you, relating to your coworkers all day long? What does your family look like? Meaning your financial well-being too. It's all one. It's not just individualized.
Catherine, and looking at that shift from pre-retirement into retirement. And, we talk to our clients when we're going through the planning because it's not just the financial part of that. The successful transition really is, and we talked a little bit about this before, but the successful transition is really based on not what am I retiring from, but what am I retiring to? And, we try and focus on that quite a bit. So what does this look like? How are we going to spend our time? Are we going to work part-time? Are we going to spend no time? How does can you talk about that transition and some of the key factors that we should look at from a holistic standpoint as well?
Yeah. So it really is a pivotal moment in our life because our identity is really cemented to who we've been for 20, 30, 40 years, right? So all of a sudden we're wearing, different hats all day long and we're running our corporations and we're CEO. But what happens here is that losing that sense of self and, not showing up for work in that sense every day, having the camaraderie, the team buildings that you've been doing your entire life and having those luncheons with your colleagues and trips, conferences, all of a sudden, that transition into going into retirement, you're looking forward to it, yes, but you have to be mentally prepared for the shift that is about to happen. And like a good leader, like a good, person in any sense of the fact that you're going to create levels of success. So you've had success throughout your entire life. Now you're able to retire. Great. But what does your success look like now when you're transitioning? Because it has to be a successful, seamless transition also, because what ends up happening that I've seen in my C-suite clientele when they're looking to retire, all of a sudden, they're losing their sense of self and then they become depressed. What's their why? You can't lose your purpose and your meaning just because you're going into a different phase of your life. That also has to have just as great a meaning and purpose, and for you to be happy, because all your life you've been happy doing what you're doing, running your companies, and all of a sudden it's a different form of transition, a different level of happiness. And will it fulfill you? You're looking for fulfillment and joy. You're also looking to transition into what is going to make you want to get out of bed. Where's your why now that you're getting up? And all of those years that you've had as far as being an expert in your field, experience, mentorship. It's priceless. Our younger generation is missing that sometimes, having that type of mentor. Look at what you can do, volunteer, be a mentor, use everything that you have, consult. I tell my clients constantly, look for a consultation practice that you can go into, be of usefulness. Yes, plan yourself accordingly, go on your vacations, go fishing, go take a yoga class, whatever you want to do. But the thing of it is that your life has to have transition, and it has to be successful, and it has to have meaning all along, because when we're not useful, that's when we get into problems, because now all of a sudden, we don't have that purpose that in Japanese, they call it ikigawa, right? Your purpose, your meaning in life. And if you see in Europe, no one really retires. They're always just transitioning. They're still, showing up for work when they're 85, 90 years old. They're still walking around. Why is it? It's the mindset. And here in America, if you can still maintain that mindset and transition slowly and do what you love, then what have you been, wanting to do? What does that retirement plan look like? How many vacations do you want to plan? And do I have the finances now to do that? What does my financial package look like? Have I planned well? How am I, communicating that to my financial wellness advisor now? What can they do for me so that my transition is seamless, so that it does, feel like it's a natural part of life, going from this point to this point? And how am I going to maintain that level of comfort, right? I'm always used to going out to fine restaurants, on vacations. Am I still going to maintain that, quality of life? Or what does it look like for me now? What am I going to give up? Or what am I going to, encourage more of? So it's a constant ebb and tide flow of, where's your priority now that you're looking to retire? And also being of usefulness to yourself, so that you don't get depressed, that you're not, in the same house, looking at the walls with your wife that, all of a sudden you're spending, all day long with. And it's the wives actually that are kind of on the,
I can't tell you how many calls we've received. Like, you need to get him out of the house.
Because that's another conversation, right? Because all of a sudden, the husband or the wife, it may be the husband that's been, staying at home dad, or the wife, but all of a sudden now this other person is in their home all day long. And that hasn't been the relationship, for the past 20 to 30 years. And it's like, well, I want to leave my dish in the sink. Well, no, I don't want to do this here. So like that whole dynamic becomes another part of, the conversation of, well, what are we both doing? And I still need my space. I still like to paint, or I still like to go and play golf. Not to encroach on each other's boundaries, right? Because that has to be another conversation of
the usefulness, and then also building that community around either each spouse independently and then also together, so they can have, live together copacetically.
Copacetically, right? Because, and who we married, let's say we're married 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that person has completely changed over the years, as everyone does, right? So, and then their needs and their priorities change. So now all of a sudden, the husband or the wife might say, oh, isn't it great that we're together, 24/7? And the other person go, yes and no. I still have my lunch with the girls, or I do this, or so it's like I'll be.
I never realized you did that all the time.
Everything in life in moderation, right?
Moderation.
Yeah, that's
a great conversation to have. Yes, and to prepare. As long as you're prepared, like with anything in life, right? And as long as you have a nice plan as to what your goals are and how you're going to meet them, and still constantly building up that accumulation of your wealth and your health, you'll have it throughout your entire life. One doesn't just stop. It's a continuation. And that's what life is all about. It's just constantly transitioning, transforming yourself, being adaptable, and really learning how to be self-sustainable and active well-being. Actively being well in your finances, actively being well in your health, your family, your business, your friends. Friendship is everything, right? So all of that together creates a beautiful, self-sustaining life on every level.
I would argue that, maintaining the health wellness component is almost more difficult than the financial component. It's harder to plan for.
It is. But then what you can do, which I love to suggest to my clients, is before going to bed, you have your journal, let's say, right? And in that journal, write down everything that went well today.
Mm-hmm.
You're focusing on all of the achievements, the accomplishments. Next page, what didn't go well? What can I plan for tomorrow? Right?
Yeah.
And then when you look at that list, you're giving your brain something to do also when it's going to sleep, because our unconscious mind loves to take things and decode. And so the next morning you wake up, right? You're taking a shower or you're driving to work and you have this aha epiphany moments. It didn't happen then. It actually happened when you were sleeping. Okay. So give your brain a job, because that's what its job is for. And then when you're looking at all of the things that didn't go well, you're giving yourself, again, a game plan. You're giving yourself the level of success to achieve those goals again for the next day. So the health and wellness really kind of lends itself, because you're communicating your needs and your wants to yourself first by writing things down. And then all of a sudden you realize at the end of the week that those things that didn't work out so well, now you've achieved them. It's about intention setting. It's about goal setting. It's about lining yourself up to be successful in your health and wellness. You are your CEO of yourself. Treat yourself like a business, because you are your business. This is it. And then when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you're saying, wow, I did a great job today, because I did achieve all of my intentions and my goals. And I did take care of my, employees, and I ran my business today. And I'm also now being, having my happy time with my family. And you're checking everything off. How many of us are listers, right? We're always checking off that list. It's just going. Well, your health and wellness has to be part of that list. It's constantly there throughout the day. It's not one or the other. And when you're doing that, it doesn't feel stressful then. You are your CEO of your body. You are the CEO of your life. Plan accordingly, because when you don't, then you're going to suffer later on by not showing up as the best version of yourself, having health issues. Then you're adding on to more stress for yourself financially too. Then you got doctor's bills, and you got this. So why? Take care of it now. Be preventative. Be intentional with your thoughts. Be intentional with your actions in your life, financially, and according to your health and wellness.
I feel like we're having a private session right now.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
Well,
feet up on the table.
and when you mentioned the doctors, one of the things I thought of is, kind of a benchmark for me is when I go see our family doctor, who we absolutely love. I kind of wonder, okay, am I going in? And am I going to be sheepish about what I'm reporting, or am I going to be bragging about what a great job I've done? Because, she goes through all, how much exercise have you been doing? How are you eating? What are your portions of fruits and vegetables? She goes through all of that stuff with us. And I kind of think, okay, no, actually, this time I can be pretty good. I can go in and say, yes, I'm doing that and checking all the boxes. So.
See, but you see that sense of pride, right? And that sense of self-love. When you love yourself and you are taking care of yourself, you're walking in there going, wow, patting myself on the back. It's the same thing with your financial wellness. Yep. Wow, look at what I have. Look at the home that I've created for my family. Look at the business that I've, built from the ground up. Look at how many employees I'm responsible for their wellness, for their happiness, for their financial stability. And it's like such a sense of accomplishment. And we don't really pat ourselves on the back as much as we should, right? And we should do that. We should say, wow, look at everything that I've accomplished today. Focus on the good. Focus on everything that we've achieved. Because our minds from like thousands of years ago are always, geared to the negative and what went wrong. And it always ruminates in the negative. We really have to train our brain, right? It's just a 3-pound muscle, but you got to train it to think that way. So like Paul walking into your doctor, right? Look at what I've done. Look at what I've accomplished. And I'm a great health specimen today. Excellent. Same thing that applies constantly in our life, because then showing up for her that way, you're showing up for your employees that way, for yourself that way, for your family. It's a continuation, and it's a sense of, really understanding how we are relatable to everyone in our life, not just the doctors, but everyone else.
Yeah. Catherine, thank you so much. There are a million other topics that we would love to get into, and we just barely touched on the whole nutrition and behavior and the impact and the relationship between those, but I'd love to get into that. Talk more about that. So hopefully you'll come back and join us again. But thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you for having me. I was absolutely thrilled to be here today. Thank you.
So that's our episode for today. Thank you for listening. If you found this topic interesting or useful, please let us know. Or if there are other topics you'd like us to address, let us know that too. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for being invested.
The RAND Group is a group comprised of investment professionals registered with Hightower Advisors LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Some investment professionals may also be registered with Hightower Securities LLC, member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services are offered through Hightower Advisors LLC. Securities are offered through Hightower Securities LLC. This is not an offer to buy or sell securities. No investment process is free of risk, and there is no guarantee that the investment process or the investment opportunities referenced herein will be profitable. Past performance is neither indicative nor a guarantee of future results. The investment opportunities referenced herein may not be suitable for all investors. All data or other information referenced herein is from sources believed to be reliable. Any opinions, news, research, analysis, prices, or other data information contained in this presentation is provided as general market commentary and does not constitute investment advice. The RAND Group and Hightower Advisors LLC or any of its affiliates make no representations or warranties express or implied as to the accuracy or completeness of the information or for the statements or errors or omissions or results obtained from the use of this information. The RAND Group and Hightower Advisors LLC assume no liability for any action made or taken in reliance on or relating in any way to this information. The information is provided as of the date referenced in the document. Such data and other information are subject to change without notice. This document was created for informational purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of the author and do not represent those of Hightower Advisors LLC or any of its affiliates.